The Golden State Warriors season ends in the play-in as the Sacramento Kings kind of handedly beat the Golden State Warriors last night in the play-in of the 9 and 10 seed battle on the back of Keegan Murray's 32 points and 9 rebounds, 0 assists, doing his best MPJ impression. Other notable performances include Keon Ellis with 15, 5, and 4. Now those stats aren't going to jump out to you, but he was 3 for 4 from 3 and played excellent defense on Steph Curry in the second half of this game. For a guy that was getting 0 minutes to start the season to be guarding Steph Curry in the Kings' most important game this season in the second half, that's a huge jump, and he did a great job doing it. De'Aaron Fox had 24, 4, and 6. Sabonis had 16, 12, and 7, keeping up his double-double streak. Harrison Barnes had a vintage performance. He had 17, 4, and 3, 5 for 11 from the field, 3 for 4 from 3. Notable stat lines on the Warriors side: Steph Curry had 22, 4, and 2, 8 for 16 from the floor. Jonathan Kuminga had 16 and 7. Moses Moody had 16 points. Andrew Wiggins and Draymond Green both had 12. Klay Thompson, 0 for 10 from the floor, 0 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist. I mean, for a game that could be Klay Thompson's last game, and I would say it's probable at this point that that was Klay Thompson's last game in a Golden State Warriors jersey, really, really disappointing, and kind of encapsulates just the struggle that has been this Warriors season when they've been struggling. I mean, the Warriors ended their season 8-2. And all of that momentum just kind of went out the door when they were playing the Kings today. They just looked like they came out a little slow. The Kings went up early. They kept that lead, and it got close, especially in the third quarter when the Warriors made some adjustments, but then they came back shooting well. Keon Ellis had some big three-pointers in the third quarter, and that was the game, man. It was honestly kind of a tough watch at sometimes for the Warriors. They just weren't taking care of the ball. They had 16 turnovers, which is kind of regular for the Warriors, but you would hope that they would kind of tighten up. But 16 turnovers, which led to 20 points off turnovers for the Kings. They tied 40 points in the paint. There wasn't a team that particularly owned the paint tonight. You would have assumed that was the Kings with Sabonis, but for the most part, Draymond Green did a good job on Sabonis this game. Kevon Looney, who's the known Sabonis stopper, only played 8 minutes this game, rightfully so. He really didn't look like he belonged out there tonight, and that's kind of been the story of the whole season, but just kind of continuing that. For the majority of this game, the Warriors ran the Green, Wiggins, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Kuminga lineup, with occasionally Kuminga being replaced with Brandon Podziemski. Chris Paul did close to nothing this game. He played 18 minutes. I swear, it felt like he played 5. I barely saw him out there. Now, the Kings obviously move on to play the Pelicans without Zion, which we'll discuss more in a second, more specifically the Zion stuff. But I want to have a bigger conversation about the Warriors and what they do this offseason now that they're out of the playoffs. If you're Mike Dunleavy Jr., right, and Bob Myers is left, so he doesn't have to make all these hard decisions on who leaves and who stays and all this stuff, what do you really do? Because you're stuck between two worlds right now. You've been stuck between two worlds since the championship, pretty much. Since the Draymond Green punch, you've been stuck between two worlds. Your young guys and Steph Curry's era. When I say Steph Curry's era, I'm talking about Draymond Green, obviously. I would consider Andrew Wiggins part of that. Steph Curry, Klay Thompson. Chris Paul is incredibly old. I know it's his first year here, but I consider him part of the older crowd, obviously. And then you've got guys like Trace Jackson-Davis, who's a rookie center who started the majority of the games for you this season. Brandon Podziemski, who's going to make first team all rookie, even though I wish Derek Lively would get it. It's got to go to AirPods. He's been great this season. Inconsistent with his shot, but he was great for the majority of the season. But look, man, if you have Steph Curry on your team, and I get he's going to be 36 next year, so that makes it really difficult. I'm not going to lie. I don't envy the position that Mike Dunleavy Jr. is in right now. But if you've got Steph Curry on your team, you owe it to him to compete for a championship. And if that means that you have to trade away Moses Moody, Kevon Looney, which, I don't think they would mind moving him at this point. I mean, he's barely gotten any minutes since the start of 2024. Brandon Podziemski might be on the trading block if that's what it takes. Trace Jackson-Davis, obviously. Jonathan Kuminga, I get that you have a lot of stock in him and you believe in him, but honestly, you should have moved him at the deadline if you could have gotten Siakam. Like, these are conversations that should have been done and over with, and they should have just moved these guys for an OG Anunoby or a Pascal Siakam if they were serious about continuing to be contenders, because you get rid of Jordan Poole and you commit to Chris Paul. Now, that doesn't look like a terrible move because Jordan Poole has a massive contract and he was not very good this year, but that obviously picked a direction. It was kind of him or Draymond Green. Obviously, in this situation, you're going to pick Draymond, but it does bear the question, should you have gone more in? The Warriors aren't even in the playoffs this year. I get the West is very competitive, but they're not even in the playoffs, the real playoffs. So then the wheels start turning, and Klay Thompson hasn't agreed to an extension yet. He wants more money. But if you're going to shoot 0 for 10 in the most important game of the season and have 0 points, not even get to the line once, you are considered a negative asset at this point. And we can't pay you, we being the Warriors, pay you the money you want just because of what you've done for us previously. I understand. I mean, you're a splash brother. Like, you are a Warriors legend, but we can't afford to pay you what you want because you're just not Klay Thompson anymore. You're not the same Klay Thompson. And this is a conversation everyone's been having for a year now, 2 years, possibly even 3, since those injuries. But man, did you really feel it last night. And when he was leaving the court, I don't know if y'all saw this video of him really taking it in. This might be my last time in a Warriors jersey. That's what that look around felt like to me. I mean, that's what I immediately thought. It also could have just been he played like shit and just wanted to kind of, realize like, hey, this might be it, not necessarily with the Warriors, but just like him being a star level player, that this might be the last time he's ever looked at it like that. So I don't know, but the Warriors are going out sad this season. I mean, you start having conversations about whether that Draymond Green suspension leads to you not making a better play-in spot or possibly even the playoffs. You got a lot of tough conversations to have this summer. And what makes it even worse is most people considered you favorites to win this game because the Kings are missing Malik Monk and Kevin Huerter. They've been missing both of them for, Malik Monk less time, but Kevin Huerter for a good majority of the last bit of the season. So they've gotten to acclimate themselves without him. But without Malik Monk, they lean heavily on Keegan Murray. And the game plan just wasn't there. Like, they did not execute the game plan on stopping Keegan Murray. He got way too many open looks. And what's funny is the open looks didn't even fall, but it was the tough-ass three-pointers coming off screens that fell. And that's what's really frustrating as a Warriors fan because you feel like you do something right and he knocks it down, but you below your coverage and he breaks it. Like, that's really frustrating to watch. But this Warriors offseason, there's no one off the table except Steph Curry, in my opinion. Like, I think that's how they have to look at it. I don't know where Klay Thompson will end up going, but I think it'll be in a more limited role for a team like maybe the Magic, who need a shooting guard. But yeah, that's kind of the gist of the reaction to the Warriors getting kicked out of the playoffs this year for me. I'll discuss more in depth how I feel about their offseason when we get closer to the draft and stuff and the final is over, and we'll see what they end up doing. But I mean, it doesn't feel great, especially being honestly a 10 seed for the majority of the year, sneaking in as the 9th seed and then losing in the play-in. Like, that really hurts. There has to be some restructuring. I don't know where that starts. But yeah, man, frustrating ending to the season for the Warriors. Zion Williamson got hurt at the end of the Lakers-Pelicans game last night. It appears to be a left hamstring injury as per Woj. He will be out against the Kings on Friday for the play-in game. This fucking sucks for the Pelicans. For a team that had that 5th seed locked down for the majority of the season to kind of slowly fall back into the play-in because Brandon Ingram wasn't playing and then have him not show up pretty much in the play-in. He had a terrible game last night. CJ McCollum was awful too. Zion put the team on his back. He had 40 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists. He looked unstoppable in the paint last night. Like, the Lakers really didn't have an answer for the majority of this game. And I understand that the Lakers were kind of in control of this game for a good amount of it, but he still looked unstoppable. And then towards the end of this game, he goes up for a layup, and then it doesn't even look like a contact injury. He just kind of motions to the bench like, hey, I need out of here. He goes back to the locker room. And that's that. Like, the Lakers close out the game because the Pelicans can't get anything going offensively. Willie Green has Brandon Ingram on the bench. And it was just a really strange ending to a game that I felt like could have been the Pelicans to win. If we want to play in what-if territory, if Zion doesn't go out of that game, I think the Pelicans win that game and they end up playing the Nuggets in the first round. Which, again, is another conversation because are either of these teams really going to beat the Nuggets in the first round? Probably not. I mean, the Lakers haven't beat the Nuggets in 9 straight games. So that doesn't look particularly great. But yeah, I mean, it goes without saying, if the Pelicans somehow win this play-in game on Friday without Zion, which it's possible, I'm not saying it's impossible, but does that mean Zion's going to be back for the playoffs? It just doesn't sound like it. A left hamstring injury, those tend to be nagging and they tend to be annoying, and then all of a sudden he plays one game, he doesn't look like himself, and he's out for the rest of the playoffs just because he looks, like a shell of himself. I mean, that's what terrifies me about this sort of injury. I can't help but think, like, the Pelicans are also going out sad right now. It's totally possible they beat the Kings on Friday. I mean, the Kings are a better team than I think a lot of people give credit to. They just have a lot of injuries this season. But if we're having an honest conversation on whether the Kings or the Pelicans are going to give the Thunder any trouble in the first round without Zion or without Malik Monk and Kevin Huerter, I mean, we're just being unrealistic if we say that they're going to give them trouble. They may win a game or two, and they might push it to 5 or 6 games. But look, man, I think that that's a great matchup for the Thunder. I think a team that would have given the Thunder issue is the Lakers, who now might be kind of having a bit of buyer's remorse for winning this game because now they got to play the Nuggets, which I get. It's a one-game series. Like, no one is tanking in the play-in to get a better first-round matchup, but you can't help but think that your chances against the Thunder are much better than the Nuggets. And I just don't think the Pelicans and the Kings in their current states are going to give the Thunder any issues. Anyway, last thing before we go, Jontay Porter banned from the league. Good. That's how it should be. I don't even want to list off all the things he did. He didn't end up betting on himself personally, but he did let people know about his injuries, and he did bet for the Raptors to lose when he wasn't playing. He could have had a potential in the league, and instead he decided to sell his millions of dollars playing NBA basketball, getting $21,000. Just slightly over $21,000. Like, that is ridiculous and short-sighted and stupid, and I don't understand it. It sucks for him because I know you're doing some stupid shit, but he's young. Obviously, he's going to be regretful when he ends up playing in Europe for 8 to 10 years and doesn't really have a true NBA career, while Michael Porter Jr. is making millions. But you reap what you sow, man. Good on the league for putting their foot down and saying this is the line. Don't cross it. Anyway, more playing games tonight. Y'all take care. Have a good one.